If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Bugging You. I'm your host, Chesley Elkins. This is my co-host.
I'm Brian Victor, and we are pleased to be here with a couple of guests today, but first, a word from our sponsors.
Preventive Pest Control. Taking care of the pests you see and the ones you don't see. Preventive Pest Control. It's as simple as that.
All right, we're pleased to be here with Mr. Mike Swanson again.
Thank you for having me.
Our staff entomologist and
always a pleasure.
Technical director. And today we have a special guest, our quality assurance manager at Preventive Pest Control, and he's had lots of experience.
Coy, can you give us a little bit about your background in pest control?
Yeah, of course. So I've been in pest control for about 12 years. Started my pest control journey in Phoenix. Just doing a regular route technician job. Moved into a management position there in Phoenix. I've worked for a couple different companies out there, and then life brought me to New Mexico and found Preventive, and I've been here since.
Okay, any of the other areas you have experience in?
I've done a little bit of work in Orange County, California, Phoenix and the surrounding areas, and then Albuquerque. More specifically, down south of Albuquerque, Belen, and Los Lunas.
Aren't you like an up and coming like rodeo guy, like a roper too, like a cowboy?
You know, I just want to buckle this weekend, so I mean, I'm,
really?
I'm the next big yeah.
Doing roping, team roping,
yeah.
Header or hiller?
Header.
Nice.
They call him 8-second Sanchez.
Yeah,
8 seconds. Well, I don't know if that's
that's for the rough stock events, but that's good enough. Yeah.
It doesn't go.
8 seconds is still a good run for team roping. So
Not bad.
I could bulldog in 4 seconds. You know.
Hey, there you go. Then you should be on TV on the ESPN, like Ricky Bobby and his daddy.
No, definitely not.
So what do you see as the biggest difference in pest control in New Mexico versus Arizona, California?
The biggest difference right away is the ant population that we have out here. I mean, there's I was told there's 592 different species of ants in the Phoenix area, but they were nothing like what we've encountered here with the odorous house ants, the pavement ants. You know, coming here, I thought I was really good at taking care of ants, and then working with Preventive, learning the techniques that we do, has really put an insight into my pest control knowledge of how to take care of ants. It's just Phoenix is a lot of scorpions. I know there's a little bit of a presence out here, especially in some neighborhoods. But the ants out here are what keeps us busy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have experience in other geographic areas, but I've always just been impressed with how much the ants own New Mexico, for sure.
Yeah, they take over people's houses pretty often over here. That's kind of our, I do daily audits, so I kind of see what kind of services are going out every day, and for the vast majority, they're mainly ants are what's bugging us.
Do you I mean, aside from ants, do you know anything about trees?
They're green, they're pretty, and they attract bugs. And so we have services that help out with those.
Well, good. Well, we're talking about trees today a little bit.
Yeah,
lawns and trees and pests and those things.
Lawns and trees. It's summertime. We got if you spend any time sitting around outside, you've got a lot of bugs that are just coming to buzz around your face and bite your ankles.
Well, I know at my house, it's definitely that summertime because we're watering our grass and we're mowing our grass. We have front yard and backyard twice a week now. Almost seems like we're mowing that thing. Mm-hmm. So how about we start with there? Start with some lawn pests there, Michael.
Do you have you've been getting any grubs in your lawn?
Fortunately, we have a dog that pees and looks like kills some spots on there, but fortunately, no grubs yet. I don't think so.
Well, that's always a big issue here. Well, not just Albuquerque, but all over the country. And depending on where you are, it's different types of beetles or moths that are eating the grass. But here, it's almost primarily the June bugs and related species that their larvae are just kind of burrowing around in the soil and chewing on the roots of the grass, and then that's what causes it to die out. And it becomes a pretty significant issue. You can pull up, depending on what time of year, you can pull up a piece of sod and find just hundreds and hundreds of these little worms in there. And that's what the grubs look like. and they really can cause a lot of damage.
Is there a way to tell just looking at it if the grass is being damaged by grubs or if there's a different sort of problem going on?
I know there are some lawn whisperers out there that certainly can. I don't have that expertise. I would have to dig it up and get a look at the actual bug.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you can see patches that just turn yellow and dry out in an otherwise like healthy lawn, and it doesn't seem to make sense. Like it's not getting any different water. It's not being peed on by your dog or anything like that. So it's probably a pretty good indication that there's something going on underneath the grass.
Well, I have found a couple of times when I've been to houses with the grubs and they've actually say this in the textbooks almost like you can almost pick up, it's like a piece of carpet you can pick up because all the roots are kind of eaten out. And I've noticed that a couple of times, like, solid roots in the grass, you can't pick it up. Other parts you can almost move the grass up. So I don't know if that's, I've heard that's a way to tell, but that's not always the case. I know that. But.
Yeah. And there's people always associate the Japanese beetle with grubs, and they're pretty ubiquitous across the country. We really don't have them historically here, but I was talking with one of the specialists that we work with, and there were actually Japanese beetles found at the lawn at UNM. And so they had to do a pretty big, I think at the sports complex, and they had to do some heavy treatment for that. And the Department of Ag got really involved, and they wanted to, nip it in the bud because that can be a big thing. They're pretty nasty invasive species, especially for lawns and other turf.
Yeah, I think kind of the cycle of it too is like the June bugs come in early spring and lay their larvae in the grass, their eggs in the grass, and larvae sprout. So, and they're deeper, and they come up towards the roots, probably February, March. The larva starts eating the roots, and then kind of this time of year, don't they kind of emerge as adults, right?
Right.
And so now's
the time you probably see both the adults, the larvae that are about to pupate and emerge as adults, and then also other adults from other generations like laying eggs. So it's a good time. There's several good times throughout the year to treat for them, but now I would recommend it if you're worried about it, if you're having them.
So I might have that wrong. So actually, the ones we're seeing now are probably laid in the later like October, November months, right?
Yeah.
And then for the winter, they overwinter, then they come up in spring.
Or depending on when they emerged, if they're ready to continue that cycle and then come back as adults and lay eggs back in the soil. Yeah. So it's not like a cicada where they all emerge at the same time and all.
So is there? Is there any way we treat them? One, can we treat the adults to prevent it? And two, once we have them, what do we do, I guess?
Not really for the adults. For all of our treatment that we offer and that we recommend is based on killing the larvae that are actually eating the grass. And there's a liquid that can be applied, broadcast sprayed on the lawn. We have found that using specialized granular insecticides for things that eat lawns and kind of just spread it out like you would fertilizer works really well. A lot of that stuff you do need to have a commercial applicator putting that out. It's not always things that you can just go down to the hardware store and buy yourself, but it is very effective, and it stays in the soil. It doesn't really provide an issue. It's not a toxicity issue to kids or pets or anything hanging out on the lawn, but it does a good job of killing the larvae that are feeding on the roots.
So would you suggest if you have a healthy lawn and you've seen some June bugs, just have your lawn treated anyways to avoid it?
I would say because the cost is not really prohibitive. I think it's one of those things that we know that grubs exist out here, so I think it makes sense just as a proactive treatment. I know I certainly would on my lawn. If I wasn't in this business, I'd probably be looking out for somebody to say, hey, what's this relatively low amount of money to go out and just kind of check off that it's kind of like giving heartworm medicine to your dog. It's like, could it happen? I don't know, maybe, but it's such an easy thing to prevent or at least try to be proactive about.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of times when people are having problems with something like raccoons or something, that's those grubs that are in the grass are actually attracting those pests. And
skunks too, right?
Skunks as well.
Skunks, yeah.
Have you been trapping for any skunks? Have you had to do that?
I have. It was not grub related, but I have trapped for skunks, squirrels, and other pests. But the skunks are pretty much, from my experience in the office, those are what we're getting the calls about. Hey, I've had something tearing up my lawn. We send a guy out there, usually a skunk, usually going after the grubs. And so it's a good opportunity for us to educate our customers and let them know, like, hey, we do offer this, and we can take care of the grubs and the skunks kind of simultaneously for them.
Yeah, because you can see that, right? If the skunks primarily, they go after those, they can smell the grubs and detect them underground, and they tear up the grass. Like it's pretty gnarly what they'll do to a lawn, especially if there's multiple skunks.
Well, we do have a would you rather. right now. Kind of has to do with skunks a little bit. Want to hear it?
I want to hear this. Yes.
Would you rather catch a skunk with your bare hands? No. Or in your backyard, or eat 100 grubs from your lawn? I think I'd eat the grubs.
Can you prepare them?
Well, I guess if you have salt and frying pan, whatever, you could make anything, salt and pepper.
Yeah, some clarified butter, a little bit of tarragon.
Timon and Pumbaa had made those things look pretty appetizing, so I don't know.
That's it. Hakuna Matata. I'm with Coy on this one.
I don't know, with skunks, man. That's just nasty.
The smell doesn't go away,
and even if you don't get sprayed, your yard's going to smell like once it sprays. It's for days.
Sure.
Yeah, it lingers. People talk about what you can do to get, like, if your dogs get sprayed or whatever, like people say you could, like, wash them with ketchup and other things like that. And that seems like just as annoying.
For sure.
And Chesley spent some time in Brazil, and I spent some time in Guatemala. I'm sure we've eaten worse stuff than grubs. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Just if I'm allowed to prepare it, I can figure out something there to make that tasty.
Yeah,
they're
It's all protein, right?
Hey, I might eat the skunk
I
too.
think there's a fair amount of fat in there too.
They're a delicacy in some places, so I mean,
Can
why
you
not
eat
if they're
skunk?
eating
Can you eat that?
You can eat
Is
skunk.
meat good?
I suppose you could.
Why not just do both?
Yeah.
I've always thought they're somewhat similar to a cat, right? Or no?
So
Gatos
skunks
tacos.
are
Cats could eat 'em.
mustelids. So they belong in the same big family as weasels and otters, minks, things like that. Also red pandas, which are kind of adorable too, are in in a similar family.
Obviously, the key is making sure that they don't spray, because I have seen shows, and I like wildlife shows, so watching those shows, they've caught skunks, and the big thing for them is always make sure it doesn't spray, because it taints the meat. So,
Oh wow! So people do eat them, right?
yeah, I mean, the Appalachian area is where I usually have seen those videos from. So
Eating skunk?
yeah,
Yeah.
squirrel, skunk, raccoon, beavers, they'll trap and catch anything.
When I was a kid, I had an uncle that he was a trapper, and he caught some baby skunks actually when they were like just newborn, and actually bottle fed them and stuff and raised them, and very domesticated and stuff, where they didn't actually spray because they weren't on the defensive and stuff. That was kind of interesting. And then he had some more that he caught that were just slightly older, like getting closer to juvenile, and I think he removed their spray bags, but they were more aggressive, and they actually even with the bag removed, they still had more of the scent on them most of the time.
Gross.
And they would try to spray, and
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something there and stuff, but the ones that were just from newborns domesticated, even though they were completely intact, they never sprayed. They didn't smell bad.
I wouldn't trust it. Like you have the skunk just chilling in the living room, and somebody drops a pan in the kitchen. Freak out. That
All it takes is one bad day.
I'm not a big fan of skunks. We had a mobile home in Belen growing up, and there was a family of skunks underneath there. And for about a year and a half, my grandpa trapped them with cherry danishes that seemed to work pretty good.
that would work on me.
Yeah, right. I mean, might catch my arm in there too. But for about a year and a half, there'd be times where we'd go to school or they'd go to work, and we'd all smell because it was just permeating from the floor of the house. So, not a big fan of them. I'd rather keep them away.
Well, let's talk about a little bit about trees. I know, like my house right now, we have a pretty big tree out front, and I've been noticing some, I don't know, drops on my wife's vehicle and her windshield and stuff. It doesn't really come off very easy either. And I don't think it's aphids, but I know aphids could be a cause of that. But what do you know about trees there, Mike?
If it's not aphids, it's probably scale or something similar, right? All those hemipterous insects that are in the same family as cicadas and
I work at a pest control
leafhoppers.
company. You think I would go get this taken care of? It's been for a year.
And it's super easy and really
I just gotta do
inexpensive
it.
to get rid of them too. Yeah, so there's little tiny insects that they just feed on the juices in the trees and other plants, and then their secretions are actually effectively a sugar water substance, and that's what really attracts a lot of ants. So we have a secondary pest issue with ants. But yeah, that honeydew dripping all over your car, you think it's tree sap or something, but yeah, it's just insect droppings.
And it doesn't come off easy.
No, it's pretty sticky.
Yeah. So how do we treat that then?
So there are two ways you can do it. Depending on the pest, depending on the tree, you can either do a drench treatment with essentially you take a 5-gallon bucket, depending on how large the tree is, you got to do it multiple times, and put a relatively diluted systemic insecticide in there and just kind of pour it around the drip line of the tree and where the fruits are. It sucks up into the vascular system of the trees, and then when these little insects feed on it, it kills them. And there's other things you can do similarly with actually injections into the tree trunk itself, and it provides the same insecticide in the vascular system of the tree. So both are pretty. The tree injection is usually more expensive, but also it's more targeted to the type of pest, and often will last longer and be more effective. And you don't have the other added issue of having a bunch of, whether even though it's kind of a low concentration insecticide, but kind of putting it over 500 square feet of kind of just pouring out insecticide onto the ground. So you weigh the pros and cons.
The injections also work a little bit quicker, don't they?
Yeah, I mean it depends on the tree and depends on the time of year, depends on the pest, but yeah, generally that's true. Yeah. There's another one that we do a lot with it now is the bagworms for the injections too. That works really well.
I was going to say, I know that, in the forest, you kind of have cycles of times, especially when it's dry and stuff, where you'll just have these, different pests come through and wreak havoc on trees. As far as like if you're, on your residential property, can you avoid a lot of that by just keeping your tree healthy, watering and stuff like that?
Yeah, that helps. I mean, there's some insects that will feed on a healthy tree. Things like the scale, things like pine tip moths. We deal with those on pinon and other types of pine trees, where the larva will actually feed on the kind of the new growth at the edge of the branches, and that causes a fair amount of trauma to the tree. Bagworms, like we said, they'll absolutely feed on healthy trees too. But things like bark beetles will more likely affect a tree that's already under stress.
Okay.
So the bagworms, people freak out about those, and we have a couple of trees that they really enjoy are the honey locusts, which are native here, and you see them all over town. Like if you go to a parking lot, like a commercial large parking lot that has trees for landscaping, there's probably a 50-50 chance they're using locusts. Like they're just, because they're hardy and they don't get terribly huge and they're really pretty. But they're really susceptible to these bagworms, so you have to sometimes treat those guys.
Yeah, I mean, if people, I bet you there are people who are seeing them and not know what they are. A lot of times you'll see, they're just kind of hanging like from like a spider web almost, and a little ball of like leaves looking type thing, right?
And it's a really tight, dense cocoon that they weave with silk, and then they put the parts of the tree that they're eating over it, so it's like camouflage, it's like a little tank. Yeah. And it's hard to treat because you can spray all you want over the top of them, but it doesn't penetrate that cocoon. And so you have to get some type of material into the tree for them to eat, either like a spray, like a Bacillus thuringiensis, I always forget how to say that, or like a systemic treatment.
Yeah, you see them a lot in the valley, and I grew up in Krause. We always had those, and similar to those is a tent caterpillar. Like you walk on the bosque, you probably see today a bunch of trees with the huge looking spider web in it, When I
was a kid, I was always afraid that those would fall on your head, and so you'd have like all those worms and that silk on your head, and I think I would freak out and die.
Yeah, and those you pretty much. How do you treat those?
Same way.
Yeah.
So again, it's just caterpillars that are feeding on the tree. So you put in the appropriate systemic insecticide into the tree, and it'll kill those insects that are feeding on it.
So you can prevent quite a few different pests with just the single treatment, same type of thing. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And what you're using for, caterpillars, moth caterpillars like the bagworms or the tent caterpillars or the pine tip moth, may be a different insecticide that you want to use for, say, the scale. So I'd consult with an expert on that before you just start injecting insecticides into a healthy tree.
Sure.
Now, I've seen down in Las Lunas a lot of times that the trees will be closer to the home, and those bagworms will actually go underneath onto like the eaves. Is there any particular reason why they're doing that? If they're feeding off of the tree, is there?
Well, yeah, they go somewhere else to pupate.
Okay.
And then they'll emerge as adults. It's interesting. The females, when they'll go back to the tree, that when they hatch, they stay in that cocoon for the rest of their life, and they just hang out in the tree. And the males are like little kind of gray moths, and they'll fly around to different trees looking for females.
So if you have a fruit tree and you treat it, can you eat the fruit?
It really depends on the insecticide and it depends on the label. Most of them will say, treat after the fruit has dropped, or, don't harvest food for a certain amount of time if you do apply this insecticide to it. But it really just depends on the label. But it's always better to be, better safe than sorry. Absolutely.
And I know there's a big number of pests here, the beetles here, that are not really necessarily feeding on the tree, but they're attracted to certain trees or seeds, right? That certain trees have, right?
Yeah. And not just the beetles, but the bugs especially.
I'm sorry, bugs.
Yeah, like the boxelder bugs. Those are the red and black ones that you see all over Albuquerque this time of year, just sometimes in like massive, gross, groupings. And then there's also the elm seed bug, which are super tiny little guys that people have mistaken for gnats or some other small fly. And they actually feed on the seeds that drop from elms, but also cottonwoods. And so, as you can imagine, they're all over the place. And there's not much you can do about them. You can try to be proactive and clean up the seeds that fall from the tree, but if you go look in the bosque and tell me how easy it'd be to clean up all the seeds from the ground, So, yeah, it's difficult, but you can do some treatments for those.
Those ones you actually treat the adults is how you take care of those.
Yeah, for both of those, because they feed on the seeds that drop onto the ground. They're not actually feeding on the tree for the most part. And so you can do ground treatments for those and then just do treatments around your windows and doors, kind of keep them out. But they do get inside homes because they just group in big numbers near doorways, and they really make people, they upset people a lot.
Probably more so the elm seed bugs than the box elders. I mean, I've dealt with box elders for forever here, and they, for the most part, stay outside. Occasionally, you'll get one inside, and they don't bite. They don't really infest, so they're a little bit of an annoyance outside. But I guess short of really getting rid of the tree, there's not a ton you can do.
No, you can't. They're going to come back every year.
Yeah.
We tell some of our customers, if you want to get rid of them for real, you need to get rid of that golden rain tree or box elder or whatever tree it is, and put something else. But nobody wants to do that. Nope. I mean, that's a huge deal. So,
well, you guys want to hear a dad joke?
Lay it on me.
What do you got?
A dung beetle, a dung beetle, walks into a bar and says, "Is this stool taken?" Don't put that. Tell your brother not to put that on the. He likes to put me doing dumb things on the. What do you call
You're
it?
our social media superstar.
No, you are.
We get all the best sound clips.
Yeah, me being stupid.
Well, that about does it for our episode today. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next time on What's Bugging You.